Welcome to the Boston Art Podcast,
Boston's premier art podcast,
where we talk art, culture, and philosophy.
My name is Theodore Earthworms.
And I am Brian Huntress.
Welcome to the show.
So, we're eating some sandwiches driving through Hull.
Like the old days.
What else is new?
Oh.
You know, we used to come down here from Boston a lot back in like 2021. Mm-hmm. We just randomly drive to Hull from like Brighton.
Yeah.
What a fucking shit drive that would be right now.
Well, it was hard to find places to like hang out at the beach from Boston.
Yeah, I was like reflecting on like when we were driving down here earlier to go to Nantasket, how often we used to come here, and I was like, wow, why were we at Nantasket just like doing nothing every day? Like multiple times a week for an entire summer, like, oh yeah, like we went to Maine yesterday. Oh yeah, we went to New Hampshire. Oh yeah, then we went to fucking, and it was just because it was still full blown fucking pandemic mode.
There was like nothing to do but drive.
Because there was a weird time post quarantine where if you didn't have a high paying like office job, you had to de-quarantine. In like 2021, where like everybody pretty much had to stop quarantining except for some people, and that made it so that we were in real COVID still, but everything was, remember that when everyone was like,
yeah,
like they're opening everything back up, what the fuck, this is so fucked up.
And it created this weird thing where the only stuff that you couldn't do in good conscience, like you had to see people all the time because of work. And even if you wore a mask and, like, sanitized and stuff, you were still exposed all the time because you had to exist. But then people were just going about their regular lives without seeing their friends or loved ones because that was the only thing you had control over. And then slowly it was just like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, it's like seeing people because of, like, some mandatory reason, or if they were strangers, you didn't feel guilty about it. In the way that you don't feel guilty when you like buy gasoline for your car, but like hanging out with your friends was like the equivalent to just like dumping trash on the side of the road. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can fuck up the environment all you want as long as it's like some mandatory innocent thing.
Interesting. I feel like that analogy might need some adjustment in terms of like severity, but.
No, but I'm not talking about the reality of what that meant. I'm talking about how it felt.
Yeah.
Like, we were so isolated, because we could have hung out with people, but we didn't because of the guilt and chaos associated with it.
Well, something that was also happening that I feel like is not happening as much now at all, but for a period of time was, like, pretty common, was you'd hear about somebody being lax about it, being like, you know what, fuck it, like, I'm gonna hang out with my friends. And then everybody would get COVID. And it was like,
yeah,
fuck.
That sucked so bad. Because it was so embarrassing. Like, it was like, it was like having a human cone of shame.
Yeah.
You know, because, like...
And it was scary.
Yeah, like, and you're like, I might die, and everyone hates me, and I'm a dumbass.
Yeah. I also had, he, as you know, has now passed away, but for most of, like, real COVID, my grandfather was in, like, late-stage lung cancer.
Right. And
my mom was his caretaker, and I lived with her for a lot of that. So, for me, it was, like, if I get COVID, I'm gonna expose him to COVID. He could die.
Right.
Which is, like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I was thinking about it like that anyway, even when I wasn't seeing him at all, but, like, when I lived in Boston, but... it's more real when it's somebody that you know for a fact would be the outcome, like kind of severe. But it also felt so futile and like horrible to think about because I knew I was still going out and like seeing people every day because I worked in customer service.
Yeah, I remember being worried that I was going to kill old people.
Yeah,
that was a horrible feeling. Maybe we should switch the beat a little bit.
Yeah, this isn't fun. If you're still listening, thank you.
Yeah. You know what's a funny reflection I've had recently?
What?
No offense to anybody that's going to relate to this. I'm mostly joking, but I feel like years ago,
Is
right?
this about to be a self-deprecating analogy that you just apologize to people?
No,
for?
it's not self-deprecating. It's
Okay.
outwardly deprecating others.
Oh, I see. All right. Okay. Then the apology is appropriate.
I feel like years ago, if somebody was like, "Oh yeah, I've been doing this thing for a really long time. This is like my 4th year," or like, "Oh yeah, this is like my third or 4th year doing this. It's been so long." I used to be like, "Wow, that's a long time." Now when I hear somebody say like, "Yeah, like I've been like doing this project for 4 years," and then I think about that and I'm like, 4 years ago was 2020. I'm like, you haven't been doing this long.
That's crazy.
You started in 2020. Shut the fuck up. You're new, bro.
There's like a pre and post feeling.
Right, and it's like it's such a, it's very like, it's a hypocrisy. Like it's very, I'm wrong for thinking that obviously, because the bias is coming from, probably my age, because I was like 25 during quarantine.
Yeah.
Which means that like my brain was pretty much developed and I was like living a real life, versus a lot of people out there living their lives were not. Like they were like maybe graduating high school, or they were a freshman in college, or like, I mean, a lot of the people we like, the people that would be telling you about, I don't know,
like
people we see randomly. The young people, the young folks whom I love.
Don't say that.
The kiddos.
Oh my god.
The youngsters.
No, stop.
The Gen Zers.
I can't.
Oh, Gen Z.
Gross.
Is that fucking so weird? I know that's like, I don't know, British people or something.
That's a thing?
Yeah, Z means Z in like some places. You think I'm wrong? Look it up right now. I'm pretty sure in England you would say Z.
Gen Z?
Yeah, I think people literally say that because that's how you say Z in some English dialects.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not even joking. You know the YouTuber Sarah Z?
Yeah.
Her name is Sarah Z on paper, but she says, "Hey, I'm Sarah Z."
Huh. Weird. I've never heard that before.
I don't know why they do that.
I mean, Z
It's
is
a
kind
mystery.
of a stupid word, so I get it. It doesn't include.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like an Americanism. Like how there's like clearly some things that in older English in England, like the origins of it or whatever, like, I don't know, like vitamin or some shit. Like maybe that's just like
the other thing about that though, I also think that word, like vitamin, sounds like what it means. Like it sounds like how you should say it. Vitamin, I don't know. Vitamin sounds like it tastes bad.
You know what's funny? When I hear vitamin, I think medicine.
Yeah.
When I think vitamin, I think like poison juice from an orange commercial. Like something that's like not healthy but is pretending to look healthy.
Do you think that that's because vitamin sounds like medicine?
It rhymes with it. Vitamin, medicine. Medicine.
Medicine.
Medicine is just how an Australian person says medicine.
I don't know about that.
Medicine. Oh, nor take your medicine.
Nor. Medicine. I don't know.
You know what I wonder? You know, it's an interesting theory. I wonder if this could happen in the future. This definitely won't happen, but I wonder, like, this would be an interesting plot for like a sci-fi movie, maybe.
Okay.
Imagine so you know how in like the 50s and 60s, or even maybe more recently, people thought it just didn't matter if you just like buried trash or like burned trash or just like dumped plastic in the woods or in the water or something, like it just didn't matter.
Yeah.
I wonder if in the digital world there might come a time where we realize that we're like damaging the digital landscape by uploading so much garbage to it. Like we might find in the future that there actually is an edge.
Like the internet runs out of storage.
Yeah. Like we find out, like, I don't know, because like I don't know, just like a random thought. Like,
before we figured out that plastic was so bad, like I've always grown up knowing that it doesn't decompose, but there must have been a tipping point in like recent memory, the memory of someone who's alive right now, when they realized that it doesn't, right? Like, did we have other shit that didn't decompose like that? Was there a precedent for expecting that it would just stay down there?
Well, the thing is, I think that there was a time, and they still do this in some ways and in some areas, but there was a time where nobody, like, it was totally chill to just burn a mountain of trash.
I know.
Well, there was no. So yeah, they probably realized that once the expectation for waste became decomposition instead of just burning it, because they probably never even thought about that really. Like they were like, why would I even want to know if this decomposes? I just burn it.
But I don't. No, that's possible. I was thinking though, like an average person, like you just huck something in the yard or something if you wanted it to disappear, right?
Well, I think people.
It was like the Dust Bowl.
Well, I think in the Dust Bowl times, or even more recently, I think people literally just had trash fires.
Huh.
Like they would just literally just burn a giant, like, you know how they talk about like fucking pit fires and shit from like Iraq and Afghanistan and the war and stuff. Like I think that's what we did here too.
Interesting.
Is that like a weird way to relay that information?
I'm wondering if that was more than just garbage, but so the thing is though, was that like the go-to for everything? Because wouldn't you assume that they'd only burn things that like wouldn't stink?
Well, I think that there was many different ways that they would dispose of trash, and I think it depends on the era. Like one thing, for example, that's really common with like archaeology or like amateur archaeology or metal detecting is people will dig up trash pits.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
From like the 1800s and shit, or even the 1700s, where they would literally exactly what it sounds like.
Well, that's what I mean. Like bury it.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thought because right now, like if you buried like just like a fucking like 900 like Dunkin' Donuts cups, like you'd be an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, and you'd know for the rest of your life that you're just some asshole that buried thousands of Dunks cups.
There's got to be a law for that, right?
I guarantee there is. Also, I'm pretty sure too. Yeah, and you can get caught for a long, it's not, like, for example, I was...
You know what would be really funny is if you got away with it and you never went to jail or anything, but then you just really went to hell.
Well, if hell is real, I'm sure that's happened
to
infinite amounts of people.
Like, well, it's because the Dunks cups.
Yeah. Well, I read an article one time about a guy... I don't remember the exact details, but it was somebody had bought a property and then discovered after like trying to build on it that the previous owner had buried like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of car tires.
Oh my god.
Or something like that, just to get rid of them or some shit. Or like he did something like that, and I think that they ended up going after the former owner in court.
That makes sense because it's an unbuildable property now.
Yeah,
right?
that's the thing. Like, if you do improperly dispose of shit by like burying it or doing some like illicit trash fucking storage or something, like it can haunt you. It can potentially come back.
Good.
It can fuck up the ecological landscape, but it can also fuck you legally, even if you don't even own the property anymore.
Well, if you're burying plastic, that probably seeps into the soil and makes it like so you can't plant things, or like imagine if you had kids and they were playing in the yard and like eating dirt and whatever, and there were just like tires.
And they accidentally ate a tire.
That actually happened when I was a little kid. Our yard used to be like just like a field, and I guess whoever owned the land before we moved in there, before there was a house there, used to scrape the tar off of boats in what became our backyard. And my youngest brother used to go in the backyard and just like eat dirt sometimes, and
as boys do.
Yeah, he just like eat a bunch of dirt, and he got lead poisoning. He's fine now, but
yeah,
it was crazy because then my mom told our neighbor that, and he was like, "Oh yeah, they used to scrape boats in your yard." And we were like, "What the fuck?"
Great.
Thanks for the intel, Joe.
Yeah, I wonder if I've wondered at times if I just have lead poisoning. I've been thinking about that a lot recently because I've been watching a lot of lead TikToks.
Oh yeah.
Of people testing shit for lead that like are things that have lead that you would never expect it to.
I worry about that because there's a lot of things in your house that I would expect to have lead.
Yeah, like all of the vintage housewares and plates and Corel and Pyrex that my mom collects and uses.
We eat off of all the time.
Yeah, maybe I'm just like, maybe we're like have lead poisoning and that's why we're so fucked up.
I don't feel fucked up.
Well, you are.
Would I know?
You wouldn't know. That's the thing.
What are the symptoms of lead poisoning?
Mental illness.
Like, yeah, but isn't that like after years of exposure?
No, I don't know.
Instantly.
Yeah, you taste lead once, and then you're just fucking.
That's why people collect those plates.
It's like getting hit in the
high.
head with a hammer. You just fucking instantly. Yeah.
Is it bonk?
Yeah, it's like getting bonked with mental illness.
Oh my god.
You know what's funny? I used to think that our show was crappy. Like, if somebody found it thinking like, oh, Boss and our podcast, they would click on it and be like, what the fuck? This is just two weird people talking.
Yeah.
But we haven't recorded an episode like this in so many weeks that people definitely wouldn't think that.
I kind of love that. I like the idea of just like pulling one over on our audience. Like,
Right.
You thought that we were doing just interviews? Well,
you know what's funny
surprise for you.
is this is kind of a fun opportunity potentially to address some potential new audience members who haven't listened to the whole catalog and have just listened to interviews. When in between interviews, very short answer, we do episodes like this.
Where we just chat.
Yeah, because we used to. It's so funny when you listen to the first episode.
Oh god.
It's so funny because we seemed to think that we were embarking on a project where me and you were going to personally describe and talk about what it's like to be an artist in Boston.
So stupid.
And we were going to be the ones to bring that information into the like, and it's like,
we were younger.
if I had to say, like, if I were to ask myself what I've learned about only from this podcast, not from outside, just from what I've learned doing the show, is that I don't know shit about any of this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I have like infinite, like, it's like a black hole of information. Like, I have like infinite knowledge. I feel like I have infinite knowledge and none at all.
Well,
like, I'm stupid and I know everything.
Yeah, I've always felt like that, to be honest. I think to give us some credit too, though, I think that a big motivation for us in like season 1 era, if we have seasons, you have to guess where the seasons start and end.
Yeah,
But season 1, like that time, something that was a huge motivation for us that I don't think is as present in the way we think about things now, but was a huge chip on both of our shoulders then, was that we both dropped out of art school. And that it was COVID, so we had no community. So we were kind of seeking education in an affordable and accessible and community-oriented way, which I think we actually found. I think that's the most rewarding thing about doing the show. But we were actively looking for that because we missed that intellectual stimulation, but didn't have the lifestyle to support going back to school during COVID.
And not even just that, but I think that, like, you know, you felt like that. I felt like that a little bit, but also there was also the fact that we only identified with and thought we only had any relation or identifying with just pure DIY punk, like no traditional. Now the idea of like affiliating with a gallery or doing a show in a gallery or in the city or working with talking to curators at museums, like all of this is very, very demystified to us now. Now, like, we have friends that are curators in museums. Or, like, we just, like, you can just, like, text someone or DMs. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just very, like, the magic in that sense is just completely gone. Like, the art world is just any other industry. You know, as obviously with different facets in terms of, like, nonprofits, museums, you know, whatever. There's, like, many, many different ways that it exists. But it's just not that magic. Like, it's great. I love it. But it's not like... I think before, especially in the beginning, there was this sense that it was some...
puzzle we had to solve or something.
Yeah, or some, like, thing that was, like, inaccessible and very high class and, like, out of reach. But that's, like, that is just not true at all. It's, like... Because, like, in many ways, I'm different, obviously, than I was in 2021.
Yeah.
But, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, not really. I'm not, like... I'm very different personally, but in terms of, like, professionally... I
also do just want to clarify, just for a listener too, that I totally agree with that. And I think this is what you mean as far as like talking to people about what they do and about learning about those things and like having those conversations, because we didn't think that was something we could do then. But I do still feel like it's pretty hard to get like a gallery show or something like that as a working artist.
Of course, yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah. So I guess maybe,
but I don't think it's mystifying anymore. I just think it's hard.
Like I think there's a lot of people, myself included, who have thought or do think that these people have some kind of like, there's like some kind of like it's almost like I feel like people view it, and I have too, as some kind of secret society. You know, that you like need a secret password or a clearance to get into. And in many ways, in some aspects, that's 100% true. But the general thing is just like, you know, if you like walk by a gallery on the street that you're allowed to walk into, it's a storefront.
Yeah.
It's a storefront that's trying to make money. It's not like a private club.
Yeah.
With like millionaires floating through, like, you know, I don't know. It's just a fucking store that's trying to make money, selling high-end retail at the end of the day.
It's true.
I'm going to get gas real quick, and then we're probably going to change the subject because I feel like we're heading towards a horrible black hole of conversation. Okay. Because here's another thing also to clarify. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I think you do.
A little bit, maybe, but I'm just kind of talking shit. I don't know.
I think that it is always positive not to... even if it's true, I think it's better not to think about things that are goals that you know that you're committed to trying to achieve as if you're on the outside of a gate you can't climb. Even if it's true. It's not a good way to think about things because you're going to start acting appropriately to that mindset.
Because here, I think, you know, if we thought about it in like a Jungian sense, right? I think that what that archetype is to me is it's the rabble-rouser, like shit kicker archetype, where they're like, I'm on the outside, I got a chip on my shoulder, I'm like gonna throw some elbows and make them know my name. Like there's that kind of attitude. Yeah. But I feel like, and that's good, but the opposite, the shadow of that attitude is feeling like and acting like a angry, spiteful, like someone with a really bad outlook and attitude. Yeah. Is like the dark side of the rabble-rouser. Yeah. Like it's good to be new and like fresh and to be kicking down doors and moving and shaking or whatever the fuck people say. But like I'm saying, like there's an evil twin attitude of that.
I think that even maybe in broad strokes generally, you're right. And I think that what can be the issue sometimes is feeling alienated from a group or from something that you want to achieve, or like not allowed into a space for a certain reason, and mistaking it for being a personal issue when it's really a systemic issue that you could possibly change, not just for yourself but in general. Like I think that there's like what that brings to mind for me is like the difference between somebody refusing to participate and just hating on whatever it is that they can't participate in versus like becoming an activist and figuring out a way to fix it or to get themselves in the room, or doing something completely separate, like a third option of just doing whatever the fuck you want without like being subjected to that oppression or isolation of this social group that you want to be a part of. Like there's a lot of ways to handle it, even if you really are on the outside, but being the person who has that mindset of like always dwelling on being on the outside means that sometimes you put yourself outside of circles that didn't have a problem with you in the first place. You know what I mean?
I do.
Like it's good to be aware of if the person that you're talking to is the issue or if it's bigger than that.
That's pretty funny, but we probably shouldn't joke about that on the air.
Why are you doing this to me?
What? No one's gonna know.
You're making it sound like I said something terrible.
Well, you did.
I did not.
Theo didn't say anything terrible. It was just
It sounds so much worse now.
I'll just cut this out. All right, welcome back. Blah, 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 blah.
I don't think you are gonna cut that out.
Sorry, I'm so stupid. Here, let me get a sip of that.
Here.
Thirsty.
Yo, can I have a sip?
Yo, let me get a sip, bro.
Remember that time?
That fucking guy at the skate park who asked me for a sip of my jug of water. Like,
Can I have a sip?
can you fucking imagine? Like,
Stranger?
not to mention, it was like literally like I was wearing a mask probably. Like
It was
during
like
this.
2020.
Yeah, like it was like not normal times. And it would, even if it wasn't a fucking pandemic, and the guy was like, even, can you imagine asking a stranger for a sip of their drink? Like, would you ever do that? I mean, you'd have to be, if you were like in a crisis, like in a really bad situation, but I don't know if this guy was. Like, I think he was just a weirdo.
I feel like it would be less rude, even if you were in a crisis and really had to ask somebody near you for their water, to ask for the whole water. Like, I'm so sorry that I have to ask you this, and I know this is super weird, but I'm dying of dehydration. It's super hot. I've been skating. I fucked up. Can I have your water? Not, hey, can I have a sip?
See, that's like what a normal person would do in in like a crisis situation.
He
But
just thought it looked yummy.
yeah, he just was thirsty. I'm thirsty.
Can I have a sip?
Wawa. Like little Rito. He says Wawa now.
He says Wawa?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Because I always ask him if he wants agua or Wawa.
No, really?
Yeah. Then I think yeah. What a sweet little guy.
I love when he taps his ear to say that he can hear something interesting.
It's so funny, dude.
He's so smart. He really is. Talking to him is so cool because it's a combination of words and sign language now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I was a smart baby.
You know, I mean,
He's fucking pretty smart.
technically, like I'm sure you were, but like, you know, like, if you could like time travel and like bring like someone from our age group into like, and like, I don't know, do some kind of like infant intelligent test, or I don't know, I feel like toddlers now are definitely smarter than they were when we were kids.
Yeah.
I'm sure that like I bet if you looked it up, like baby sign language and this type of shit, this sounds like something that was invented in like the 50s, but was just an unbelievably fringe child psychology thing that nobody tried until now. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of stuff from way back at the beginnings
Yeah.
that are still very like real good science, but just weren't really like it just was not widely implemented.
My mom told me the other day that I was reading when I was 3. Do you think that's true?
You know, I don't know, because like Reed's like, you know, he's like almost 2, not quite, like he's like he's closer to 2 than 1 now, and I honestly don't think I mean, unless the development's just rapid.
I kind of feel like that might have been a slightly misremembered fact. Like, maybe I recognized like pictures and books.
A 4-year-old could probably read, though.
Well, I want to know what she meant by reading, too, because the way she said it, it sounded like I was reading novels, and I was like, no.
Well, you could probably read like a picture book or a kid's book. Like books with
reading a picture book is different.
They have words.
Yeah.
You know, like Cat in the Hat. Maybe you could read Cat in the Hat when you were 3 or 4.
I want to know what book. And I want to know if it was 3 or 4. She said 3.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure people can like be like I'm pretty sure you can start to play sports or like learn how to play chess.
Well, 5 is way different than 3.
Well, I'm not saying 5. Yeah, 5 is like not
You said 5.
Oh, I was wrong. I was mistaken. I meant to say like 3 or 4, like you can start teaching a kid like a complex activity, but
Yeah.
so which makes me think that you could probably teach a child to read like in a really rudimentary way.
Well, like
I don't know.
School, when do you learn to read? 1st grade?
I don't fucking know. No, I think maybe you might start to learn some things like that in kindergarten. No, you know what? In 1st grade, I can remember learning how to like write my own name. Like, I think kindergarten's just like coloring and like games. But I think
said that the reason that I was homeschooled was because they were teaching kids letters and I was already reading.
Huh.
And I was like, I just don't see how that adds up with me currently.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, maybe she was looking at the preschool and kindergarten kids and like, because I don't think you're learning anything. You're just learning how to play with kids or like how to like color and I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's really the only. I think that kindergarten and preschool is valuable in child development, but I think it's really just babysitters. I think it's just like we have like like I'm pretty sure it wasn't like public schools like created by like the same presidential administrations that like also were like regulating work hours and the work week in America and wages and labor. I wish I knew more about the history of like labor in America and stuff, but I'm pretty sure public school mostly exists to accommodate just jobs of adults.
Yeah.
Because it's the same length as like the most common work hours.
That's true.
So
that's definitely true in function now. What's interesting about it though is that women weren't working as consistently, I think, in like I'm thinking like 1950s nuclear family Americana. But I guess that wasn't everybody's case. That's also probably like middle class people, right?
I think that, yeah, well, I think definitely upper class people, like a lot of the women definitely didn't have jobs unless it was because they were doing something that they were like really into. Yeah. Like philanthropy or art or something, or whatever it is, or library, you know, whatever, but or teaching even. But I think that the 50s, I think it's really a question about class, definitely, because I'm sure there were a lot of families that couldn't afford to be single household, but were anyway because of that gender oppression. Yeah. Where they just were suffering and were in poverty because the husband didn't want his wife to work or something. But then there was probably, like, you know, the whole Rosie the Riveter movement was the 40s. Yeah. Which was a women's work movement. And there actually have been tons of women's work movements. Like the fucking really famous Lowell, like almost all women workforce. And yeah, it was like the 1880s or 90s, I think. Yeah. So, yeah, just like our brief discussion about the art world, this is something that's impossible to generalize about. Yeah. Without just being completely fucking wrong.
I'm also realizing that some like rudimentary information that I've had about this is like does not line up, and I'm thinking that there was a lack of intersectionality in the stuff that I was reading, and I never questioned until right now, because I feel like I know a lot of stories about like women working in like unsafe working conditions in factories in the late 1800s and like really early 1900s, but then like the history in my brain goes to like nuclear family, like women weren't allowed to work, and it's like maybe just poor women aren't part of the equation in that.
Well, canon. A lot of people, I think the radium girls, just like the factory workers, women in Lowell, I think a big reason that they were doing that was also for independence, because these were areas that were letting women work, and factory owners, and were they exploiting their labor and putting them in horrible conditions and fucking them over? Yes, but I think it's in the same way that somebody, I don't know, like, because the expectation for them, I only know this because I happen to have learned about the Lowell women factory mills and shit before, but a lot of the expectations of a lot of them was that they would become housewives and be married, but the factories in Lowell allowed them to like live in a dorm or a single bedroom or whatever, or live with other girls and do whatever the fuck they wanted and work. Like the price was that they worked in a factory. But ultimately, they were able to not just be a child-rearing housewife to some fucking, like, asshole in, like, you know, I don't know, some random town wherever they were from in, like, New Hampshire or something. Yeah. Well, you know, they got to get the fuck out of wherever they were from and go get go get a job. A job, yeah. So, it almost makes me, like, well... No, I was going to say it's kind of like people who are like Uber drivers and delivery drivers, and it's literally horrible and it's the worst job ever, but they have more freedom. Technically, kind of. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I find that it is definitely a huge, it's definitely a really interesting thing to look at, because it was like, I don't know if I want to call it an anomaly or an aberration completely, but... because maybe there were other times or places that was happening, but it was definitely pretty crazy. Yeah. That would be a really interesting, maybe we'll do this. I could do it, or we could do... a
deep dive?
Yeah, like a full deep dive script on that specifically.
Factory?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think similar to the San Francisco factories and military work areas and stuff in the 40s, it was mostly women. So
That'd be cool to read about. I actually, while you were saying this, was just thinking that I feel like this is something I should know. Like, just as a woman in the workforce, the history of women in the workforce in the last 100 years should be something I'm more familiar with, but...
I mean, to be fair, though, that's like an insanely tall order. Like, that's like asking you to just have, like, an associate's degree in a random subject. Like, I don't know. Like, that's like a lot of specialized information. That's a lot of reading that you would have to do.
But do you know how much I know about ghost ships?
That's true.
Like,
but
I've had some very specific niche interests that I could tell you a lot about. This
I mean,
isn't one of them, which is concerning to me.
I don't know if I'd be considered concerning, because just because...
No.
Am I going to risk this statement? I was going to say, just because something is important and worth documenting doesn't mean it's as exciting as, like, ghost ships and, like, murder mysteries and really, like of course, like, I learn about, I don't know, I listen to, like, Am I making you mad right now?
I'm saying I think it's exciting and I want to learn about it.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I think the reason that I don't know a lot of... I don't know.
You're right, though. I don't know. I appreciate you not putting me down for not knowing.
I mean, I don't know anything. I, like, have the most, like... I'm, like, telling you about a TV show that I haven't seen, basically. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I mean, though. Like, I think in general... I mean, this is my theory, not so much my practice, I guess, but I think in general it's good to have as much context and history as you can on things that affect you. And this is definitely something that affects me.
Speaking of history and things that affect us, I feel like I haven't really been learning about art history, like, at all recently. Like, the last, like, year or so. I mean, there was like the Andy Warhol thing and the Francis Bacon thing and some of the fashion stuff.
Yeah, the last year or so?
But that's like, you know what's like such a weird thing that I realized?
What?
Is that when I learn about modernism, I feel like I'm learning about pop culture. But when I learn about art history, it's like the most boring fucking information in the world. Unless it's like a murder mystery or it's like scandalous in some way. Or like it has something happening in it.
I've learned that I find it much more interesting when there is a narrative. Like, even if it isn't scandalous, like, I need to understand the context of... Like, but the worst art history classes, the worst, like, ways to learn about art history is just to look at a piece of art and try to memorize the dates and who made it. Or, like, memorize a collection of art by the same person or whatever. Like, I need to know who that person was, what, like, cultural background they had, like, what ethnic background they had, what years they were working, what years they were alive, who the patrons were that funded their art, why those patrons liked their art, like, what came first, what came second, what came last, where the growth was. Like, the objects aren't standalone to me because I just can't retain that information. I don't remember, I don't care. But if I know more about what is being depicted, like, the reasons why, it's really fascinating to me because it becomes a relic of that story.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because, like, I love, for example, Andy Warhol's story 100,000 times more than I love his art.
Yeah.
And the same with any other art figure, like, you know, like, but that's actually so funny because I love their stories and their lives so much, but the art visually and object-wise that I love the most are usually from artists that are completely lost to history, like ancient or like really fucking old Catholic art.
That's interesting.
There's like very rarely biographical information about them, and I like fucking love that shit. Like Hieronymus Bosch, for example, is one of the most famous medieval artists. I learned recently, I didn't know this because I had never, I just happened to not wonder about him personally and what he was like. But it turns out there's like barely any information recorded about him.
That's true.
I think it's just his name, village, who, and the woman he was married to is known, and that's it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think he married like a wealthy patron of the arts or something.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, I mean that was the fucking move in medieval times. What the fuck else?
That's still the move. What do you mean?
Yeah, I guess it is.
Honestly, if any of us could accomplish this, it would be a good career choice.
Well, hopefully for you, you won't have to do that. I will just transform into that, and vice versa.
Yeah, we'll just both become wealthy patrons of the arts.
Well, I don't know that I would be a patron of the arts in that sense, but I want to be a very successful artist.
That's want to be wealthy.
I don't know if being a successful artist makes you a patron of the arts, though.
I think that being a patron of the arts means funding projects that aren't yours.
I mean, I would definitely, I don't know. You know what's something I think would be really cool? I will not make any moves towards doing this, and obviously until it's like possible. Well, no, never mind. I think that it would be cool, like you know what I want in my old age, like when like doing athletic things or crazy things or traveling is harder. I would like to be creating like grants and scholarships and residencies.
Yeah.
And like creating really awesome ways for artists to grow and build.
Yeah.
But like the idea of like cutting a check so some fucking people can like build a wing of a building to like, you know what patrons of the arts do.
What you just talked about is all patronage of the arts.
Yeah.
You have to think about the fact that arts and culture, or like the function of art, is it's a splintered thing, right? Like there's art as education, there's art as like cultural preservation, there's like as a communication tool, as a therapy tool. Like all of those things need funding.
That's true. You know, it's like a dream residency that I would love to create when I'm old.
What?
Like this would only happen if I do build a successful career in art and get to retire from it. Is I would want to make a residency where it's like a group of like 10 people or something, and everyone just stays in some huge house like in a city, and the residency is that everyone just makes tons of art, either collaboratively or alone, and everyone just parties the whole time and just has shows and does crazy shit and goes out, and it's just like debauchery and art making. And that's the residency. Not like some stupid writing and like dumb academic type thing where it's like really boring and you like regret even doing it. But a residency where the point of it is kind of like hedonistic chaos. Wouldn't that be kind of interesting?
No.
I think that'd be awesome if everyone was an adult. Like it was all people in their 30s or something. Like it was all, fully normal,
Yeah.
grown, mature people. I feel like that would be awesome.
I feel like those spaces exist.
Well, but I'm saying, but I feel like those spaces exist for people that aren't in like some like elevated academic setting. Like I feel like usually that stuff doesn't let you do that.
I think it depends what you mean by partying.
Well, I'm not saying like, oh, let's all do ketamine.
Well, you just said hedonistic debauchery and partying.
Yeah, like let's like go just like get into trouble, the residency. I'm not talking about real trouble. I'm not talking about doing something actually bad or like crimes or like something. I'm talking about just like fun. Like when you're like, I don't know, like you have an art space with your friends and then you show up and your friend found a free piano and now it's stuck wedged into the hallway and It's a crisis and everyone's high and they have to figure out how to get the piano out of the wall.
Yeah.
I don't know, like that, like to try to create that for people that would never be in that situation because their fucking like parents like own like a I don't know, an international logistics company.
I think that sounds fun. The part where you lose me is the drugs, though.
No, I'm saying no drugs.
You just said everyone's high.
Well, I'm saying if they want to smoke weed. I don't even smoke weed. I'm not...
You were the one saying this. I'm just responding to what you're saying.
Okay, let me fully clarify. This fantasy residency that doesn't exist, that I would be presiding over as a senior citizen, would be like just fun, chaos, and freedom, and to encourage people to create an amazing, fun environment where you get to do whatever you want and be crazy and make awesome art and develop lifelong friendships.
That sounds fun.
If the people in it smoked weed and drank, that wouldn't be a problem. Well, I don't know, but...
See, the thing is, though, I feel like that would be a problem to me because that would lower the quality of everything going on.
Only if the smoking was to a reasonable, like they were, wasn't like overly indulgent, and the drinking was just regular adult drinking at nighttime.
Yeah.
At appropriate times.
Okay, that makes
like
sense.
Like regular adult drinking,
like
not
within
like
reason.
Yeah, not like drinking 40 ounces at 2 p.m.
Well, that sounds like what is gonna happen if you create a space that's built around the concept of hedonism. So I think it depends on your marketing. Your marketing could use some work, but I like the idea.
Well, fuck me, I guess.
I just like the thing that... I don't know. I personally just have a pet peeve about this because I have presided over spaces like that and existed in them, and they're always fun until some fucking asshole just brings everybody down and just makes it only about drinking and drugs, and then nobody actually follows through on whatever they were going to do, and people pitch out cool ideas, don't do them, and then start infighting.
Well, what's funny is I have a similar experience, and I think that the reason... So let me say this. I think that in my experiences being in like a kind of anarchistic art collective where there's no one there's no boss of it, it's just a group of idiots trying to have fun and organize it.
Yeah.
Is the worst stuff happens when guests are out of control. Like if it's an open door thing where anybody can come through and anybody can bring anybody, and those people are running amok and drinking and doing whatever they want.
Yeah.
Then it's like pure, it's a hellscape.
That's true.
But when it's like 8 people doing whatever they want, then it's cool because they're all vetted and everybody knows each other, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like when the groups are like I've been in spaces where, and you have too, obviously, where a precedent is set that anybody can be there and anybody can do anything.
Yeah.
Fucking idiot. Those, sorry, I was beeping at an absolutely moronic fuckhead driver. For anybody that didn't know, we're driving right now. But what am I trying to say? The only way it works is, I remember what I was going to say. If you cultivate a space where the guests have no sense of respect or decorum or limits, like the guests think this is a place where you could punch a hole in the wall or break a window and it wouldn't matter, you have failed as somebody trying to create an awesome, cool art space. But
in this hypothetical, this is like a residency, right? So it's not even an open doors thing.
Right. Okay. Perhaps, but that's the thing that I think would be cool about it, is if there were parties and open door experiences where a part of the residency was the artists involved were learning how to cultivate an awesome artistic experience for other people.
That would be cool.
You know what I mean? I think it was almost like a simulation. They can't fail. They won't be arrested or shut down by the fire department. It's not illegal. Everything's above board and set up, but it's giving people the experience of being people who are doing that like we have done.
Yeah.
Where we are people that have just done DIY organizing just off the rails. So imagine being able to give people that experience is, I guess, my point.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty interesting.
I agree. I think that would be cool. I just I don't know. I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm anti-partying. I do enjoy that and I do it. But I just have seen that go left in ways that just were so disappointing, because I think that it's very easy to accidentally, if you just trust people with everybody making sure they're only drinking what's appropriate and doing what's appropriate in a space without delineating what that actually means, and it's supposed to be a small space that's doing intellectual things, it's not going to be sustainable. But if you lay groundwork for what is acceptable and what isn't, and kind of add an element of if you go too far, you'll be eliminated from the plot, basically. Don't embarrass yourself and don't make this not fun for other people. We're trying to stay on plot. That can be fun.
Yeah, which is interesting because you're bringing up a point like that is like unbelievably so you're talking about self-policing, which is really cool when a group can successfully do that.
Yeah.
And moderate and vet and make everything safe and chill for everybody. But what's funny about that is that maybe people listening and us have also been in situations where it's just like that's just like the early stages of like a cult or something, or it's just like a totally crazy draconian.
Well, no,
horror.
I'm
not saying that's what you're saying is leading up to. Like you're mistaking me for condemning what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm
just saying that like I don't know.
I don't even just mean self-policing, like the main people involved. I mean that it's really. I think that when you have an open doors art party, there are people that show up just to drink with artists that don't contribute anything and then say no when you suggest an idea. Like people that cause everyone else in the room to not want to take any kind of risks, and it becomes like a party of cool where like one person is doing something neat and everybody's like basically jerking that person off and they're all high and nobody wants to make art. And that vibe fucking sucks. Like those are the worst kinds of art parties ever. And that can happen really easily when it dilutes with... Like, if the whole space, even if everybody is, like, blazed, if it's all people that are actually working artists or that have cool ideas or that want to contribute, or even if they've never done it before, if they're excited and want to try, that can be really fun. It's not necessarily the partying that is a problem, but if you're having an art space where there's, like, a couple people that like art and then 75% of people who happen to show up are just there to be around artists and to be drunk, that sucks, and it's kind of like an unpaid art gig for the people that are actually trying to do it. And I feel like it's really difficult as an event organizer to prevent that from happening. Like sometimes it's just kind of a dice roll.
Yeah,
in my experience, as someone who's fucked up some events that way.
I mean, I've had a bunch of bad events too that were bad because people were drinking and partying. But I also think that like the spirit of an event is something that can definitely be controlled.
Yeah. But
it has to be, it's like fire, like, which is a very cliche metaphor, where there's, nothing wrong with a campfire, nothing wrong with a bonfire, right? And you can obviously see where I'm going, but it's like, I don't know. You know what I hear when you talk about what you're talking about? Is that I hear somebody who was called to organize fun events and cultivate an artistic environment, but you weren't supported. And people took advantage of what you were trying to do. That's what I'm hearing. Is like, like jerks showing up to the nerds' high school party. Not calling you a nerd. That's not what I mean at all. But like, it's like kind of like when you see that in a movie, like where like,
yeah, the
kids throw a party and then all the popular kids and the football team shows up and ruins it, and they're totally out of control and they can't get anyone to leave, kind of type deal. But like, I don't know. I think that's totally true. I've seen that happen at so many music spaces, and I've seen music spaces actually brought to their knees and ruined because of people taking advantage of the space. Like that is very real, and it's a shame.
Yeah, I don't necessarily mean that, but I think that there's also, I don't know. I think that there's also been a lot of situations I've been in where there was like a point and a plan for like what was going to happen in an event, and then because there was alcohol or drugs or something involved, it just didn't happen, and everyone just sat around and drank or did drugs instead of making art or talking about art or doing anything creative. And it was just ultimately a waste of time when there was kind of an agenda to start with. But I don't know, maybe this is a personal grievance.
It sounds like a mix of a personal grievance and a good observation.
I just feel it just frustrates me because I've also had situations with friends where people were drinking and like whatever, but still did something really fun and cool. Like it's not the drinking that's the issue. I just think a lot of people will say like, yeah, I'll totally do a photo shoot, and then they just show up and don't. Or like make fun of you, or like don't want to participate, or just like are a total fucking drag. And I hate that so much. It's like my least favorite kind of person in the world. Like I'd rather you fist fight me at my party than be a fucking loser about an art idea.
Yeah.
Maybe actually, honestly. At least I'd respect you.
Art, yeah, and I'm like curious. I don't want to like ask you too personal of a question about this, but I want
It's okay.
specific context. Are you talking about a space you ran or a space you were participating in that you didn't own? Or both?
Both. I just feel like
Both instances.
I'm not even thinking of anything specific in particular right now, but I feel like the majority of the time that I've experienced somebody floating a cool concept, it was something that everyone agreed to and then didn't happen. Like, it just doesn't materialize. And I think the hardest thing for me socially is tracking down and really finding people that are about action instead of just thought. Because it's awesome to find people that have like really cool ideas, and I think that can be the hardest part when you're an artist, is like thinking of something really out of the box and interesting and exciting to do. But then there's people that are just fucking down and will actually do it with you and want to make it happen and can get something off the ground. And not everybody is both.
Well, if I had to make a comment about two of the art organizing spaces that you were a part of, it seems like one of them was like that for a time, where it was actually like people that were down and it was sick and people were doing really fun stuff together.
Yeah.
And then you were a part of one, to no fault of your own, where you weren't supported. You were, and everybody were just, people that wanted to be seen at the scene. Or like people that just wanted to be at the party, either to do drugs or to get laid or to just, and it wasn't, and it was just a bunch of people pretending to be artists.
Yeah.
And that, do you feel like that's accurate?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's also an element that's like kind of tough, where some people that are legitimate artists, when they're not high or drunk, just fucking suck when they start partying for real. And that is another separate issue, which is a shame. And I think that might have been kind of more what was going on in that situation. Like, I don't think that there was anybody that I was friends with at that time. I don't want to like, I don't know, I don't want to get too specific, but I don't think that there was anybody who I'd say isn't an artist, but they weren't making any fucking art at that point in time. And I wasn't, I don't know, I was frustrated by it because it was holding me back, not because I was drinking or doing drugs or anything, like doing anything crazy, but because it's like I was just in a completely non-conducive space that wasn't a creative space.
Yeah, it's literally like the fucking Howl by Allen Ginsberg or whatever, where like I've seen the best minds of my generation, blah 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 blah, whatever he says.
Yeah.
Where like, I feel like a like when I did drugs and drank and shit, most of the people, probably at least half of the people I did drugs with were blunted and, stifled artistic souls.
Yeah.
Like people who used to play an instrument, or they loved poetry, or they loved to draw, but they were on drugs. And it was a part of themselves, a love that they forgot or was lost in their, locked in their mind underneath it all. Like that was me. That was 100% who I was. I wasn't making any fucking art or doing anything of any, I was just doing drugs and having a good time. Well, having a bad time. But like, that's 100. Yeah, I mean, that's like the story of rock and roll, right?
Yeah, I think I also have a weird experience with it where I've never done drugs, but I've been in spaces where there were artists that were doing drugs and were doing art things, and I was an artist that was not doing drugs but was in those spaces with those people. So I think it just makes me extra sad too, because I was a lot younger. This was like during / post college, and I didn't know that was what the situation was. I guess I was pretty naive about that, really. So I was meeting these people that were so interesting and so exciting, and they had great ideas and they had good portfolios, and it seemed like it was going to be something cool. And then they just proceeded to do nothing, and it was just a letdown, and it made me sad for them, and it was a waste of my time.
I've been there for sure.
So, I don't know. The thing though is, now that I'm actually talking this out, I don't think that that's something you can really police as an event organizer.
I don't think you can police it, but I think that you can definitely like the Puzzle Factory days, for example. There's been 2 times in my life where I had just complete free reign to have events whenever I wanted.
Yeah.
And that was when I was 17 with the barn, and then again in 2018 and 2019 with the Puzzle Factory, where through those times, what I ended up learning, for just as an offhand example of, like, you learn pretty quickly that the bands you book correspond directly to the people that show up. Like, you could be like, oh, I haven't seen Matt in a long time. I better book the Shit Slappers, that ska band from Alston.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, dude, that'd be so sick if we book like blah blah blah. Then like, Jen will show up.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you start to be able to just put. You could literally like when you're, and like that's kind of like, a lot of people don't like spaces that book the same bands over and over again. Mm-hmm. But the secret benefit to that is that you can literally like
build parties, basically.
You can build a party because you know who the people are that are going to show up for those bands every time.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times, like with the Puzzle Factory, when I was booking, it wasn't actually that I just wanted to see the same 4 bands every night.
Yeah.
Of course I didn't want to fucking do that. Half the time I wouldn't even pay attention to their sets. I'd be like in the hallway, like just chilling with people.
But you knew it would be a good
But I
time.
knew who would show up if I booked them.
Yeah.
Which would be like just a handful of awesome people.
Yeah.
And that's like, I don't know, it makes me sad remembering all that, but like, like every awesome band that I remember from back in the day, I barely remember. I remember some of their music, but what I remember most is just the dope ass people that came with them. Their partners, spouses, their best friends, their roommates, like just the cool people that pulled up when you booked them.
Yeah.
And I think that was like, that's what I think that's probably what I miss the most. Cause because what's funny is that like, I think that's why there's a difference between a professional event organizer or a stage director of a venue and an event organizer. Like an organizer, someone who's like organizing DIY shows, is somebody that is primarily invested in community for love of the game.
Yeah.
Versus an event organizer could be anything from like, the guy at the House of Blues to like a wedding planner.
Yeah.
That's not really a community thing. That's like a specialized service.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why that's not my fucking job, is because I've never given a fuck about that.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about events logistics. I couldn't be a stagehand. I don't know anything about rigging. I don't know anything about, I just never even tried to learn that shit. The only thing I tried to learn was just how to create circumstances where a bunch of cool people would hang out with me. Like, that's really all I was doing at the end of the day, I think.
Yeah.
I never learned how to run sound.
I think that's a valuable skill set to have, though. Because I think that's the thing, is like, that is a skill set. Because like the stuff that I was talking about, those like negative experiences were early in my experiences of trying to organize and trying to build community. And I didn't really know that that's what I was failing at. Like, I thought that it was good to just welcome everyone and just put them all in the same room, but sometimes people don't get along, and sometimes the vibes are not the best, and sometimes they weren't the best vibes for me, like the spaces that I wanted to be in or the environment that I wanted to be around. So I think that knowing how to do that to make sure that everybody has a good time and that it's a healthy and happy place for everybody to be is important, maybe in more of a like cosmic sense than it is a financial thing. But like, I think it's just a good skill to have. Can you see right now? It's very foggy.
Yeah, it's defogging. It'll be good in a second.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that actually just struck a personal chord with me and irritated me, but there wasn't anything wrong with your hypothetical at all.
Yeah, well,
Sorry. I apologize for that.
No, it's all good.
I think I just like react negatively to the idea of hedonism, because I feel like as an adult I already do whatever I want and I don't need to like be fucking weird about it.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Like, what if hedonism isn't like sex and like opium and alcohol, but instead it's like reading a book and eating Cheez-Its? Like, what, someone says like, oh, what's your poison? What do you like? And you're like, oh, I really love Bridgerton. And, and I love the boba ice cream from Trader Joe's.
But dude, even if it is like sex and alcohol or whatever, like I feel like the term hedonism has this implication of it being bad for you or bad for other people and just not giving a fuck.
Right.
Like, I'm Charles fucking Bukowski, and it's like, I actually care about the quality of my life and the life others lead. Like, I would like to be a positive influence on those around me, and I'd like to not have a bad life.
Right. Yeah.
And I get self-indulgent sometimes. I don't
My
know.
hedonistic pleasure is instilling confidence in my community.
Yeah, I don't
love
know.
helping people. Oh, that really just gets me going.
Well, not even just that too, but
I fucking love building community.
that's not what I mean. I just also get really irritated by. I think I'm a little bit. The older I'm getting, the more type A I'm becoming. I think in some ways.
Interesting.
Where I just really don't like to waste my time. When I allocate time for something that I'm looking forward to, I want to do that thing. And it doesn't have to go exactly to plan, but it's like if I'm looking forward to spending time with my friends, that's what I'm expecting. I'm not expecting, like, I don't know, some random fucking guy to show up and just start doing coke on the table. Like, what year is
fuck
this?
that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm past the point in my life where I'm okay with that. Or, like,
Well,
didn't want to say anything to the guy because I was nervous. Like, fuck you.
And what's interesting is that, like, you know, what's interesting about that is, like, an argument like, or something me and my friends used to say, literally, like, I talk about the Puzzle Factory over and over again, but, like, one reason that we were fine with, like, this idea, like, because for anybody that doesn't know, the Puzzle Factory was a sober space.
Yeah.
Like, it was not, there was no alcohol. The only time there was drugs and alcohol was when people were kind of, like, just low-key drinking and smoking or whatever. And honestly, and whatever. So, and that was fine. But the reason that we were cool with that is because there is no shortage of venues and art spaces and show spaces where you can drink.
Yeah.
You know, because that's the thing. Like, this guy coming in and doing cocaine and making completely changing the vibe into a really unsafe vibe. There are tons of spaces probably where you can do cocaine freely and openly, and everyone will be really happy and excited with you.
Which is all
do
the
cocaine with
reason
you.
why it's not cool to do that at an event that's specifically designated for that not to be the case.
Exactly. So it's like that's kind of why I used the word earlier of it sounds like you were an unsupported organizer. Like, you would have benefited so much if you had 3 or 4 people that were with you and of sound mind and body, ready to kick somebody out that was ruining the vibe or helping clean. You know what I mean?
You know what is actually sad about it, though, is what I will say. Because, I mean, for those who know, we are talking about, like, the first half and second half of Virago, which are very different eras. And, there actually was a really good community of support for me during that. Like, I was not the only one. I was the one doing, like, the, like, administrative stuff, like, scheduling it and, like, running the Instagram and shit. But there were a lot of people that were doing skill sharing, that were helping clean up beforehand and after, like, were setting out drinks, like, bringing food, whatever. Like, it was a really good community, but it was a community of, like, 21 and 22-year-old girls.
Yeah.
And then these fucking assholes would just show up and ruin the vibe, and we were just, like, scared to kick them out.
Yeah, that's awful. That's
Yeah.
really fucking whack.
I mean, also, though, I wasn't, like, scared all the time. I think that I also was, like, an idiot and had a much lower bar and was usually, like, stoned the whole time. So
Sure.
it was kind of just, like, whatever. But it did get to a point where my roommates gradually were like, okay, this needs to end by midnight at least. And then gradually we're like, okay, maybe bi-weekly. And then slowly I got kicked out and went to a different space. And then that space was, like, really tough. That was
like
that
just
was where it was actually bad.
It was just a
vibes.
drug den. And we should say for your, like, I think that needs context, Theo, because, like, I think what we're making it sound like by accident, to put it into we're making it sound worse than it is, because what we're talking about is there was a pre-existing art space and venue that had a name that was doing its thing and had people that owned it, and they invited you in to have your own events there.
Yeah.
So in that place, the people running that were, you know, had it was like an unsavory, bizarre situation that I'm just saying, I think it's important to point out that you didn't, like, cultivate a drug den art space in a past life.
Yeah, no,
Like,
these
you
weren't my
didn't
friends
do
or
that.
anything. And
Yeah. You were there to set up something cool and inspire people and have a bunch of fun.
Yeah.
But the powers that be were facilitating and counteracting that by allowing people to, you know, like, to go back to the Puzzle Factory, one of the biggest flaws in our entire space that contributed to its destruction actually was that it was pretty much never locked. and anybody could go in at any time of any day.
Yeah.
No clearance required, no keys. You could just go in, and that was bad.
And I think that these are things that really stick out to me now because, like, my current life, I kind of, in the last, like, 3 or 4 years, really, have kind of, actually, I guess that means consistently since the moment this happened, I've kind of, like, been much more of a hard ass about this stuff. Like, at the very end of Virago, there was somebody who I actually, like, physically kicked out of my house. I've kicked, like, 4 people out of my house after this happened for kind of doing shit like that. Random men that came over that turned out to be, like, not safe. Like, I kind of got a backbone about that a little bit. Luckily, didn't have a lot of situations where I had to do that, but I'm fully okay with doing that now. But I don't think I had that skill then. And also, like, just to add some extra context to this is, like, embarrassing kind of now because this is not my reality anymore, but at the time I was freshly out of being homeschooled and I really didn't know that everyone was doing ketamine.
Right.
All of my friends stopped coming and I didn't know why, and then nobody wanted to make art, and I was like, why is this so weird? And then somebody told me that they were on ketamine, and I was like, I need to leave.
You know what your earliest days in Boston remind me of?
What?
Is that Halloween movie with the little guy with the pot on his head and his brother with the pointy hat?
Oh my
That's
god.
what you were.
Over the garden wall?
Yeah, you were over the garden wall.
Oh my god.
Just the garden wall was Boston.
Yeah.
And you were both guys.
I wasn't, it was like the Pottsfield, like, pumpkin people, but I was just in, like, an apartment in Chinatown.
Literally, yeah. Exactly. Was it a residential location or was it commercial? I've never asked that. Were people, like, was there, like, a bedroom? Was there, like, bedrooms in there?
It was a really weird space. So, I don't know if this is true, but this is what I was told by someone that lived there. Apparently, it was a commercial space that had been illegally renovated into, like, a New York-style apartment. Like, there were separate bedrooms, but it was a huge, big loft area with, like industrial ceilings, like a big floor, and it was upstairs and downstairs, and they were apparently paying, like, no money because someone who lived there had a connection to, like, the mob or something. I don't know if that was true. Even when they said that to me, I didn't really believe it, but it made no sense that they all lived there, and it was, like, 2 stories of just huge space in Chinatown.
So, put simply, it was a squat.
It wasn't, though.
But wasn't it not zoned as a residential and people were living in it?
I don't know if this is true, though. That's the other thing. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's all secondhand.
But it was a place where people lived, and it was a crazy art space where you could kind of just walk in, and it was, like, down an alley and up, like, 3 flights of stairs, and it was kind of warehouses, but also had kitchens and bathrooms and were, like, very bougie. Like, it kind of looked like the iCarly apartment. It was weird.
Interesting.
But, like, there was a whole room that was just weed plants. Like, a huge fucking room. So, I don't know. It was a crazy space. I don't know. It was one of those things where I just kind of was like, I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna see it through and see what happens. And it turned out bad, but it was a wild ride. Don't regret it.
It's so funny how, like, the art world for really young people is that, where it's just pure chaos, no rules, no organization. And the art world for old people is, like, the complete fucking opposite, where it's just all grants and proposals and red tape and this and that, and, like, nobody has any fun. But it's just, like, and there's, like, it's so rare that there's something in the middle, where it's just, like, I don't mean old, I shouldn't have said just old people, I just mean, like, the proper art world is, like, red tape and proposals.
Yeah.
And the improper art world is just, like, pandemonium. So it's like, I don't know, you know, wouldn't it be wonderful if, like, you know, we could have both, you know, or something like, you know.
I think that there's a class question there, though, because I think that young people are okay with being broke and only having enough money to get through the week, and it means that they get to do more with whatever excess they have, and they can create spaces like that or exist in spaces like that. Like, at the time that I'm talking about, I was totally chill with, like, sleeping on the floor if I needed to, or, like, staying out till, like, 6 a.m. I'm not that fucking person anymore. And now, the reason that I'm more likely to go to something or to do something that is maybe a little bit more, like, formal or whatever is because I know that it's going to be contained. Like, I can go to work the next day. I'm not gonna, something fucked up and crazy isn't going to happen to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still think going to those spaces is fun sometimes, but I don't really do it because it just doesn't fit into the way that I do things now, and I wouldn't be able to survive doing that as a career. Like, I can't full-time it with, like, DIY art right now because I wouldn't have any money or a life, you know?
Yeah.
And you can get a salary job doing it the red tape way, which is, like, I don't know. I don't love it. It would be nice if there was more creative freedom, but I understand it. And I think that the reason I was going to say that is I think that there are spaces that are kind of DIY spaces that are occupied by people that are not just 21, but I don't think that they are as, like some places that I've been in, and this is also a homeschooling deep cut, but, like, the DIY bluegrass community, they have, like, really crazy pop-up stuff on the South Shore that I peripherally knew about because a lot of my homeschool friends' parents were involved in that stuff. And they had wild parties and festivals and shit that nobody even heard about unless you were in the scene, and they were doing really weird shit. Or, like, I don't know, a lot of, like, what?
Oh, go ahead, finish, please.
I think that there's a lot of communities like that are, like, farm adjacent, or, like there's other ways that are, like, maybe more off the beaten path routes that people still do that later in life that just aren't as glitzy and glammy as the, like, Grant's public art gallery space route.
Right, because another thing with a big pitfall with the DIY world too is that a lot of the people doing it, the artists and organizers, really, really, really need support. They really want support. They want people to love their art. They want people to listen.
Yeah.
So they big themselves up and they make themselves sound important. Like, people, they start using really professional language and start rounding up numbers and this and that. And what ends up happening is you start your garage show at your, whatever, your fucking aunt's house or something, where everyone's drinking seltzers and there's 15 people there listening to you play your demo.
Yeah.
Or your band's shitty songs. You are describing that. It's like, yo, come through the fucking shops, the shop studio, like $5 as suggested donation, like you start using all of this, like, really, like, beefed up language to make yourself sound better.
Yeah.
And what happens is you invite legal consequences onto yourself. You get in trouble because the powers that be and the zoning board and the housing authority and all these people, they think you're running an illegal business out of your house.
Yeah.
Because you're using that language.
Yeah.
They don't know that you're just some idiot trying to, like, share and exchange art and ideas with just, like, 12 people.
Yeah.
But because you were insecure about what people thought of you and what you wanted people to think about you, now you're in trouble. Now your whole fucking thing's shut down because you wouldn't stop using the word venue.
Yeah.
Or tickets. Or donation, or community. Like, you actually have to drop those words. And that's why it actually can be safer to use words like party, cookout, get together.
Here's the other thing, too, to, like, just totally be an asshole right now. If you are actually involved in a community, you can still get the same fucking 30 people to show up. Like, you don't have to call it a venue unless you're trying to reach a wider audience. And if you're trying to open it up and make it a public thing, you're gonna attract attention from people that think it's cool and the people that are gonna try to shut you down.
Absolutely. And you know who has figured that out? Is literally the people you were just talking about. These old people having bluegrass shows on farms.
Exactly. But that's also why you don't hear about the old people parties that are actually lit, because we're not in that community.
Exactly. And it's because they're not taking themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
And they've seen amazing art spaces get their fucking lives snuffed out like a fucking candle in the wind.
I also feel like we should back up for a second and just stop saying old people, because I feel like we should put some more respect on this.
Well, when I just said old people, I meant it with respect. Like,
okay.
Like, I meant that as, like, an honorary title. Well, I mean, not honorary. Like, an honorable title. Like, the old people have figured it out. Like, shout out to them. Yeah. And I hope to do that, too.
I mean, same, yeah.
Like the boomers, or you know who has figured it out generation-wise is boomers and Gen Xers, if we're going to be really specific, because there's one art collective in Boston that I have at the tip of my, like top of mind right now, which has been around since, like, the fucking 90s, and it's a legendary art collective house that is residentially zoned, but is an artist residency and has people crashing, has these events, and it's like one of the most, it's like literally like it's a famous DIY art collective that has not been shut down, has not been had its wings clipped. It's just there, and it's because it's probably ran by experienced people of a different generation than us. Not gonna say old people, but I'm just saying like that
Gen X and boomers aren't even old, to be fair.
Right, we're not talking about like senior fucking citizens, literally. Like, anyway, whatever. I hope no. If there's any old people listening, sorry. We respect our elders.
You're smarter
here
than us
at the Boston Art Podcast.
Yeah.
Shout out, but like,
no, for real though. Like, you're right.
Yeah, they like, and I think it's literally, I think it's a survival instinct that those people have learned, that young people. I really think it's like a big reason that a lot of DIY spaces die so prematurely at the hands of the law and the local township. I think is because of feeling insecure and insignificant in your professionalism and in your artistry, and feeling like you're not good enough. So it's literally like this same effect as when you lie on your resume and you use better language to make yourself sound better. In that context, it's a very good thing. You're doing a good job by doing that to your resume. But publicly, online, with your illicit activities as an event organizer, you turn what should be a cookout or a get-together or just a fun time with your friends, and you accidentally transform it into an illegal activity with your language. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I think this comes back to what we were talking about earlier with the, like, being able to discern the difference between a personal issue and a systemic issue. Because I think that when you are stepping into a role of an event organizer, and you really are trying to make an event that's for a lot of people, like, not to sound like a total fucking loser, but there are reasons why there are safety laws that exist. And a lot of the time, people are going to weaponize those against you, but it also should be something that you understand you're taking responsibility for, that if you're going to invite, like, 100 people or more into a space, those people need to be safe, and there needs to be someone responsible for making sure that they're safe. Like, there's not going to be a fucking fire, or that someone's going to get assaulted, or, like, there's going to be drinking that's out of hand. If you're taking responsibility for that, you should be responsible for that and accountable to that. And if that's a problem for you, you shouldn't be event organizing. And if it isn't a problem for you, and you can prove that it's not a problem, then whoever's trying to red tape you can fuck right off, because you figured out the rules, and that's what your job was to do, is to navigate that system so that everyone else can be DIY. Like, that's a really important role, and it's not easy, but it's doable. Like, it's not like you have to have, like, an illegal venue where someone could, like, trip on a nail and get tetanus and die and get shot in the face, or you have to be, like, in jail. Like, there's a middle ground, and if you're gonna take that role on, it's your job to navigate it.
Yeah, dude, like, I mean, it's, like, really a dark story, but the ghost ship fire in Oakland, which many people have probably heard about, I think it was in, like, 2017 or something, they put the organizers of that event on trial. Yeah. They were on trial for like 96 counts of like manslaughter or something. Yeah. I think they were ultimately found innocent, but at what cost?
Yeah, they still have to live with that.
You know, the one time I had a show that truly got like really fucking out of control, I got so lucky because it was an outdoor show. Yeah. So there was no like, you know, it was about as dangerous as 200 people in a field. Yeah. It wasn't like 200 people in a fucking room. That's really dangerous. But it was literally the Days and Days show that I talked about when we interviewed Jesse Sendejas, where I was like put on the flyer and everywhere, like sober show, like blah, 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 like all these like rules and all the things that, you know, my friends and people who would normally show up would respect these parameters and boundaries. But not a fucking soul gave a flying fuck about my sober show, no drugs, no this and that. And it was just a pure, crazy, crust punk Days and Days party. Yeah. And I remember, like, there had been so many times in the past. I think that was, like, actually a big development moment for me, like, emotionally. And, like, I think that was a maturity moment for me, actually, because before that, I was like way too into it. Like, I would be like really like ridiculously hands-on, like, is everybody in here safe? Like, what's going on? Like is that guy doing drugs? I'm gonna kick him out now. Like, I was like crazy before that. Like, it was too much.
Yeah.
And at that, I remember looking around me, and I was like in the pits of hell. Like, just alcohol and booze and people.
How old were you?
I was like 18 or 19. And I just was like, you know what? I think it was a maturity moment, because I was like, actually, this is fine. Like, I don't give a shit.
Acceptance.
This is completely fine, and everyone's fine, even though everyone's drinking and smoking, and I need to chill out.
Yeah.
It was cool, though, because Days and Days is like, you know, the type of band that, you know, brings that kind of crowd, you know?
Yeah.
A party, crazy punk crowd, so.
That's fun.
What the fuck, what did I expect? Idiot.
Everyone sits down.
But the reason I brought that up is because if that was in like a warehouse or like a small little space in a building or something, it would have been like, there probably would have been real consequences.
Yeah.
For me and for the attendees.
And that's
who knows?
Something too, like, even it sounds like that worked out totally fine. That's what everybody was expecting. But I think that there's also a responsibility. Like, my experience with Virago, the venue shift, I am the kind of person who just likes to let things kind of happen, and at the time I didn't really understand the gravity of what that would be, but what I did was selected a venue that made everyone that was existing in the group uncomfortable, and almost everybody stopped coming because it was not, like, it wasn't really a safe space for a bunch of young girls to be hanging out in. And I was also a young girl and didn't really understand the gravity of that, and wasn't really being self-protective, but I also had a responsibility to create and provide a safe space, the people that I was asking to gather for a reason, and we weren't gathering for that reason anymore. It wasn't safe anymore, and I made myself an unreliable organizer to them. And I mean, I don't know if anybody of them thought it was that serious. I think it was just bad vibes and they stopped going, but I consider that every time that I host something now, that it's like, I think that it is important, especially as a femme presenting person or as a queer person, that the people that are at your events reflect your, in a general sense, like, not being like a total hard ass about it, but you don't want to invite people that you care about or that you respect professionally to a space and have also other people that you vouched for completely ruin the experience or make them feel unsafe or make it like a fucking horrible environment. Like, there's levels of, like, people aren't always going to get along, and that's one thing, but if it's something like actual safety concerns, or it's somewhere that, like, people could fucking die, like, you should not be doing that, and you should get shut down if you're trying to do that, honestly, because there's something at stake. Like, if something bad happened, like, even if nothing happened to you legally, that's on your head, you know?
Yeah.
So you don't want that. And it's just so easy to just check your boxes too. That's the other thing. It's like, you can just prevent this from happening in so many different ways.
Yeah, because this is something really important. If there is a young person listening to this that has not yet tried or is, like, considering doing what we're talking about, you have to remember that it is, in every, like, in a literal sense, it's like an outlaw thing to do. Like, like, and I mean that, like, not in a joking way. Like, you're actually engaging in something that can get out of hand and that is not allowed. Like, you're doing something that's technically illegal and maybe dangerous, even though it's magical, and I wouldn't change anything that I went through and that I did, and it was all fucking sick. And, like, maybe I sound lame, or maybe this, like, whatever, but, like, the thing is, you have to remember, like, you're getting, like, there's a little bit of, you're playing with fire a little bit.
Yeah.
Really, like, when you're doing DIY stuff. I think that if you somehow have access to, like, a big outdoor space and you're in a warm area, that's the best case scenario. If you're somewhere in the Midwest or in the fucking plains of Texas or something, go fucking crazy. Get 10,000 people to show up. Fuck it. But if you're in a structure, in a community, you every day you exist is a direct challenge to the powers that be. Like, they want to kill you, is what I'm saying. And if you think I sound cynical, it's because you have not been through what I've been through.
Yeah. I think it really depends on the place that you're into, though.
Yeah, I've heard that there are some cities out there that are a lot more, like, lenient about that type of shit.
It also depends what you're doing, because
Yeah.
I don't think that I ever ran into any of that because I wasn't hosting shows. I had like an art collective, so people were like painting and drawing and stuff, and like sometimes like people were partying, but it was never more than like, I don't know, 50 people. But that's just because it didn't last very long.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that it really depends if it's residential, if it's... I think the main concern, though, like, what I'm warning you guys about right now is, like, are you in a building where there's exits? Like, can people get out if there's going to be a fire? Do you have, like, extension cords next to cups of water? Like,
right.
I don't know. Are there, like, a ton of old dudes just randomly hanging out with young girls and nobody's doing anything about that and doesn't know who's getting home how? Like, is there a situation set up where somebody could get an Uber if they need to? Are you in the middle of fucking nowhere and some girl's gonna walk home alone? Like, what the fuck is going on, and do you know? Those are the things you need to take into consideration, because you have a responsibility to the community that you're fostering.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you get arrested, you get arrested.
Yeah. This is kind of funny, because this is usually the type of discussion that people give about drugs. Like, where it's like two like people that have been around the block talking about like why you should really not like fuck around with drugs, even though we had the... But it's like funny because we're talking about something like this is something that very, very few people could relate to, but if the right person heard it, it would help them so much.
Well, because the thing is, though, I also want to acknowledge the other side of this coin, where it's really hard to find gallery space, it's really hard to find venue space, it's hard to find a place to have a show. If you're doing shows, they're probably house shows. Like, people, if you're listening and you identify with this, people like you are vital to your scene, which is why you have to do it the right way, because everyone's going to show up. Or if they don't, sorry, I don't know, maybe they won't. But
yeah, if no one's showing up,
then maybe don't, I don't know, maybe do something else.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, like, don't take responsibility for something you can't be responsible for.
And like, this is... Yeah.
But make sure you know what you're signing on to, because you are responsible for the safety of the people that you invite into a space that you're taking responsibility for.
Yeah.
You don't get to be the cool guy and then walk away when shit gets hot.
Right. Even if you're a punk rocker with, and you got all...
Especially that.
Yeah. Especially that, actually. But like, this kind of reminds me of, it's a big systemic issue too, because when there's no funding and no accessibility for the small arts, like on the internet, we call these people small creators, or the little guy, or whatever the fuck, or people with less than 1,000 subs, or like whatever the fuck way you would describe that. But we're talking about the real life version of that, and how there's no access or opportunities for those people, which leads people potentially to doing something, whatever. Like, and like the thing is like, it literally is just like skateboarding, in the sense that, street skating is like this amazing, sick art form that's never going away, and people are always going to be doing it. But for, even though I fully endorse and love street skating, it's, destroying property, it's dangerous, it's a huge liability for anybody. So what people do is, they know that skateboarding's never going away. You can't just fucking make it illegal or ban it or something. So they build these beautiful skate parks now. Here in the 2020s, we have like fucking $1 zillion crazy 10,000 square foot skate parks. And what it's doing now, we have like 11-year-olds that are as good as pro skaters because there's parks. They invested into it a little bit, and something that was normally illicit, a nuisance, and was a problem, became something where we were developing child professionals.
Yeah.
Just because there was a skate park in their neighborhood. This probably happened like 100 years ago with basketball. They start putting basketball hoops in the neighborhood, and suddenly everyone's fucking sick at basketball.
Yeah.
I feel like this could be the future for art spaces.
I feel like that's the past. Like, I think people always talk to us about how Boston, there used to be affordable housing for artists, and like there were all these like really cool creative people that were doing things like public art. People were making, like, punk blew up here. Like, people were making beautiful like movies and films and photography and whatever. I don't know if we really ever had a graffiti boom, but there was a lot of shit going on because there was housing, and now there isn't. And I think that's why you're starting to see communities pop up in like the suburbs.
Well, I must have misspoke, because what I meant when I said this could be the future isn't that, oh, we're heading there now, it's going to be great. I'm saying, what can we do now to make it so, like, because we're, like, what could society change, or what could our community change to make it so, because, like, the thing is, people felt like they had to street skate because there were no parks. And then once there were parks, there was this a place to skate 100 times better than the street spots behind your fucking local department store. So, like, that's the thing. If there was a way for people who wanted to do amazing events and shows and this and that, and it wasn't completely, you know, not allowed or footloosed, like band dancing or something.
Yeah.
Like, if that, like, I have no idea what that would look like. Maybe it's just like a small little local performing arts center in a community. I don't know what the fuck it would be, but, like,
Well, I think the tension with the arts, it's hard, is like that's where the grants and the approved art pieces and public art projects come into play.
Yeah.
Because the public skate parks, are they really addressing the whole problem with street skating?
Well,
Because from the perspective of the town, they're putting that skate park in so that whatever homeless people were sleeping there can fucking leave, and all the kids will go hang out in the same spot, and the cops can come through and keep an eye on all the skaters and whatever. Like, there's a function to that in the greater picture.
I wouldn't say that's the whole thing, though, but
I'm not saying it's the whole thing.
Okay. I would say that that's a beneficial side effect to them. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry. I love you.
I love you too.
We need a truce.
Okay.
We're fighting now. I'm sorry. I love you. I'm sorry. I want to know what you're going to say.
I love you too.
Can we pinky promise truce? I love you. Okay. Tell me what you're going to say.
Maybe this is nihilistic, but I don't think that it's maybe very American for, like, an altruistic real effort to be put into something like art or music. Like, I think there are spaces like that, but if you're talking about, like, the town putting something in, like, we have community art centers, we have, like, public art on mailboxes and stuff, and that serves these purposes of, like, it's making the community beautiful, it assists in, like, the optics, prevents graffiti, it keeps the kids busy, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not filling that need because it's not allowing for that, like, chaotic energy to go anywhere. Like, nobody's doing anything out of the box because that just doesn't jive with the way that, like, towns operate or government funding operates. And I think like, then it's a question of, like, what do you need to make that happen? You need a physical space, you need money, you need administrators, whatever. And it becomes a really thorny issue because what you're talking about is a lack of funding.
But I think maybe, so here's the thing. You're absolutely right that anything that's funded or proposed or is decided upon by represented democracy and officials is going to be ear tagged with a million different things and washed and changed, and we can't, like, it goes through like a million different changes so that people can agree. So it, because it's funds that are supposed to benefit the town. Like, there's probably people that are like, hey, what the fuck, like, we don't even have a homeless shelter, why are we doing that? So with that being said, like, I feel like the funding part is insanely important, and I know you know a lot about that, but I wonder if too there's a separate angle, which is actually just like on the, like, imagine if it wasn't an event space that needed proposals necessarily, but it was just a roof. Like, you ever see that in a park where it's just a big fucking roof with no walls and there's just like a picnic table under it? What if it was something like that and it was just like if there were unrestricted gathering spaces, as I guess what I'm saying, where people could use them how they please during, appropriate hours or something. Like, imagine if there was just like a bandstand and people could just use it. Like I wonder if it could be, I like sound like libertarian almost now, but like,
it shouldn't be. It's politicized to say that. I mean, I completely agree with you in terms of function. I just don't know if that will happen.
Oh, but me neither. I don't think that would happen at all.
I think that's why parking lot shows and skate park shows and, like, yard shows exist. Like, I think we're come full circle to, I think DIY is permanent and necessary.
It is, but I just think it's,
But that's why, if you're an event organizer and you're the guy who's on the sword, like, hell will rain down upon you if you do anything wrong, and it's going to rain down on all your friends, and if you're really doing it wrong, somebody could get hurt and die. And you have to understand that you're taking on that responsibility. And if you do it and you do it well, you could make something fucking amazing and life-changing happen for a lot of people. And that's great and it's important, but it's also important to be aware of safety. Yeah.
I feel like you didn't give my idea enough interesting nods, and you didn't go, huh, that's really a really good point.
I do think it's a good point. I'm sorry.
I love you. I'm sorry we
felt
beefed a little bit at the end.
It's okay.
What did you feel
I
like?
have to pee, kind of.
I have to pee too.
That's why we're fighting.
Yeah.
Should we pee?
Well, finish the
episode. We're going to Target real quick.
Yeah, we'll shut this episode down. Let's hold on. We'll go somewhere real quick. But that's why I was saying, like, all I wanted to get across was that I think it's not just about, what am I trying to say? Like, I think it's like, never mind. Maybe I already got my point across.
No, what were you gonna
and
say?
I feel afraid that you're not listening. You're gonna listen.
I'm listening.
Okay, cool.
So
I love you.
Even if you already said it, I want to hear it again to make
well,
sure.
I'm just saying, like, I think it's a bit doomerist and a little bit discouraging to only consider learning about proposals and this and that and real spaces and real professional skills. And I think it's also, like, that's important, but I think what's equally important is finding ways that there's just less restrictions on general things, you know?
That's what I said. I don't think that it is important to... I mean, I'm not saying it's not important, but I don't find applying for public art proposals or doing grant-funded art interesting, personally.
And also, to demystify the grant fucking conversation for anybody listening that's been listening for a while, like, we have talked to tons of people that have successfully done the grant world thing, but I'll speak for myself and say I have literally never, ever been awarded a grant ever.
Yeah, I mean,
I've never successfully participated in anything relating to a grant. I actually am not even sure if I've even had any single proposal approved in any context. Like, have I ever made a proposal that somebody read and liked it and gave me the go-ahead to do whatever the fuck it was? To be fair...
Does Dwayne count?
Dwayne doesn't count because I've never written a proposal for Dwayne. I've participated... he's written proposals that factored me into them. Like, he wrote a proposal for a show that he wanted to put me in. But I've never, like... So, for anybody listening that thinks that that's, like they're missing out or something, like...
I mean, it's kind of like a scholarship. Like, it's usually free money, and it's usually a cool experience. Sometimes you get a residency out of it, and if you can do it, you should do it.
I'm sure it's awesome.
But a lot of people want those. They're competitive, and it's not the only way. And if you're talking about, I mean, that's not even talking about, like, event organization or something. I also am kind of annoyed, though, because I didn't say that that's all you should focus on.
I wasn't saying that you were. I was just saying... Come on, I didn't mean to frame it like that, and I wasn't saying that's all, that you're the guy, you're the proposal guy. That's all you care about. You're the mean red tape person that only cares about that.
Maybe that's you. Maybe you're the mean red tape
what the
guy.
fuck? No, I don't think that. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore.
Well, why were you saying that then? I thought you said that in contrast to me. I thought you were responding to what I said.
No, I think I was trying to initiate. I wasn't trying to actually talk about real life for a second. I feel like I was almost talking about an idealistic what if. You know what I mean?
Public spaces?
Yeah, like, I was talking about more of an idealistic, not an observation about anything real about the world.
Oh. Well, I mean, yeah.
Because I think you were making an accurate statement of reality. Like, you were talking about real stuff. But I think I was trying to, like, say, oh, what if in Dreamland? Imagine there's no heaven.
I didn't know that's what you were doing.
I didn't, well, I guess I didn't explicitly say, what about this in an alternate universe? Like, I was just saying, like, I guess I was just saying, like, imagine, like, because I get, like, that they can't just let a bunch of random people occupy a random private, I don't know, like, there's all these, like, laws about squatters and drug dens, and whatever, I don't know anything about that.
If you're talking about a public space with, like, a roof and stuff, I don't know.
Yeah,
like, I mean, like, if
what
it's
the
not
fuck
like
would be wrong with that?
Yeah, like, if it's, like, an outside gazebo in a field, like,
Yeah.
I don't really think that, I don't know. Whatever. I'm not a lawmaker, but it doesn't seem like you should need a fucking permit for that.
Exact. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's like the, like, I don't know. Because, like, yeah.
I was gonna say, though, this is where the the ability to discern between personal beefs and systemic beefs helps. Because if you're the person that's organizing this event and you're like, everybody in the town fucking hates us, we're just going to do it our own way, whatever, and then you break all of the laws and then they come and just bite your ass, you fucked up as an event organizer. Like, you should be the guy that's promoting the show. You should not be the guy that's booking the show.
Right. And you know what? All right, here's some real practical advice for somebody that's either new to DIY organizing or is getting involved in it. If you have
permits?
No, if you have a crew of people, like there's a team, like there's like a group of you all doing different things and contributing, what you need to make a role in your team, in your collective, is you need to have a friend that's really fucking smart. Make them wear fucking fake glasses, make them wear a fucking suit or a polo or whatever, and make them the sole single person that communicates with official people.
Yeah.
Do not ever talk to a landlord, an inspector, an anybody, or about anything as a group. Send your fucking friend with glasses and a polo shirt.
Yeah.
That's really smart and charismatic and isn't a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Do not let Spike talk to them. Don't let fucking your friend, your ex-military friend Greg talk to them.
Yeah.
Not to disparage military people, but
That's
just fine. Don't let a hot-headed person talk to them. Don't let your anarchist friend talk to them. Find somebody who is just very clean-cut and normal and smart.
Someone who your grandma would say, they're a nice girl, or they're
There
a
you
nice
go.
boy.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Just
just
have a point guy.
Yeah.
That's just
That is
very
seriously-
fucking normal.
That's so many, like, the downfall of so many spaces is, like, not having that person. Because all you have to do to be able to operate within an existing structure is to figure out the ways that that structure identifies people who don't belong in it and evade them. And it doesn't work forever. Like, these are ephemeral spaces we're talking about. But
Yeah.
what fucking, like, punk venue lasts longer than 2 years? Are you serious?
2 years for a punk venue, I would say, is like...
A long time,
That's
right?
a healthy life. That's
you just
like
have to do it for 2 cycles. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? You can
That's like
handle
a
that.
dog living for 8 years.
That's like 2 permits. You can't handle that, dude?
Yeah.
If you're getting shut down in that amount of time, maybe there's a way that you could prevent it. Not always true. Sometimes people just get shut down for no fucking reason, and that's
Oh, yeah.
But I think that if you want to stand a fighting chance and you want to make sure that you don't have to really embarrassingly cancel a huge show that you were excited for, or
Been
get
there.
everyone kicked out in the middle of the show,
Been
or
there, too.
like just lose your space and then not be able to do event organizing anymore, and then all your friends get in a fight and hate you.
Been there, too.
Same.
Been to every single thing you just listed.
Sometimes the reason that that stuff's happening is because you, without even meeting the person, decided that whoever is gatekeeping your ability to stay there fucking hates you, and then they do hate you because you're an asshole to them. And that's the folly of youth.
I'll let it end on that wonderful quote that you just gave. So yeah, maybe we can name this episode "Hitchhiker's Guide to Punk Rock Organizing."
I guess
Just
so.
kidding. I don't fucking know. Maybe something funny like that. I gotta pee so bad.
I do too. I think that we need to stop saying the word pee on the air.
I gotta pee. Well, what are we gonna say? I gotta take a leak.
Ew.
I gotta piss.
Stop it. Stop. Do not go down the list of euphemisms.
Is that the right word? Euphemism? Yeah, I guess that's true.
Why? Is that the wrong word?
No, for some reason, when you said euphemism, my brain heard innuendo.
I see.
But innuendo, I think, is
It's specifically sexual.
Yeah, it's a sexual
No, 'cause
euphemism.
you can be like, it's a euphemism.
Right.
You know?
Euphemism. Okay, Boston Art Podcast. So what did we cover today so I can write it down and remember when I upload this?
I don't think we need to record the recap. We can discuss while we go to the bathroom.
No. Let's record it.
I don't fucking know.
Well, I usually title it whatever we talked about the most. So,
maybe you could just title it blah.
No.
Why not?
Because then nobody would listen to it.
Why? Anybody
Trust
who
me.
would listen to it would listen anyway.
That's
They
true,
love
but
us.
we love you guys. Thank you for listening. Be safe out there. Have fun. And like gambling, don't risk anything you can't afford to lose. So.
Depends on the context.
Well, I just don't take risks that you can't take back.
Yeah.
Don't take risks that if if it actually was a disaster, it wouldn't be like, you're in jail now. It's just like, oh shit, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's the kind of risks that you should be taking, is, oh shit, this sucks risks.
That's true, I guess.
All right, guys. Have fun out there. Don't be stupid. Love you. Bye.
Boston Art Podcast is an independent DIY production by Brian Huntress and Theodora Earthworms. The information contained in this episode represents the views and opinions of the original creators or our guests, and does not represent any institution, organization, or business. Find us on Instagram at Boston Art Podcast, and tune in for a new episode every Friday. Thank you for listening.